Young Dolph's death was not just some rap beef, it was a bold and shocking murder that shook all of Memphis. The whole city felt the pain. Now, new information is coming out, and people on the streets cannot stop talking. The big question: how much money was involved? Word is, someone paid $100,000. That is right, 100 grand to take out one of Memphis's most loved rap legends. But who really put up the money? Was it Gotti, like some people are saying? Let's break it down. On November 17, 2021, the hip-hop world lost a major figure. Young Dolph, known for staying true to his city, was shot and killed while picking up cookies at Makeda's homemade butter cookies in South Memphis. He was not out partying or causing trouble. He was buying snacks before a Thanksgiving turkey giveaway he had planned for the neighborhood. That was the kind of man. Dolph was someone who gave back to the place that raised him. But sadly, someone else had something deadly in mind. The city is still hurting, and even the Memphis police chief urged everyone to stay home that night after news broke. Dolph's death happened in broad daylight at a local shop, and the security footage only made it more real. The entire thing was caught on camera. Two masked men jumped out of a white Mercedes, walked straight up to the cookie shop window, and opened fire. Young Dolph was hit 22 times. Yes, 22. The autopsy only confirmed what the streets already knew: this was not just a random shooting. It was an execution. No warning, no escape. Just pure, cold-blooded murder in the middle of the day, at a place Dolph often visited. This was not some act of random street violence. Everything about it screamed planned hit, and people have been talking for years about the tension between Young Dolph and Yo Gotti, two major Memphis artists, both with dreams of being the true king of Memphis. That title alone was enough to stir up problems, but it went deeper than rap. This was about power, money, and serious street politics. On one side, you had Yo Gotti's collective music group, CMG, and on the other, Young Dolph's paper route empire Pre. Both were respected empires with big reputations. Songs had been filled with subliminal jabs for years. But no one thought it would end like this, with Dolph gone. Shot while grabbing cookies for his community. The news of Dolph's murder stunned fans and left the entire rap world demanding answers. Who would go that far to take down one of the most respected independent artists in the game? Was it truly connected to his longtime rival Yo Gotti? Then came September 2024 and things started to unfold. Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop, went on trial for the murder. That courtroom turned into a war zone of secrets. Prosecutor Paul Hagerman dropped a serious accusation. Anthony Big Juke Mimzio, Gotti's own brother and a major player in CMG, allegedly put a $100,000 bounty on Dolph's life. This was not just internet gossip anymore. It was official, courtroom evidence. The district attorney's team claimed Big Juke was furious over Dolph's success and the way he disrespected CMG in his music. So he paid to shut him up for good. The court was in shock. Social media went wild with the idea that Gotti's own brother might have been behind Dolph's death. But it did not stop there. Then came Cornelius Smith, one of the accused shooters. He had already confessed to being involved, and once he took the stand, he started talking like he was recording a Tellewell album. Smith said he and Johnson were the two gunmen on the video, but insisted they were just hired hands, part of a bigger plot. His story laid everything out. They waited near the cookie shop, watching for Dolph's car. When they saw his camouflage Corvette, they knew it was time. Smith even said they had been given inside info about Dolph's routine, suggesting this hit had been planned down to the minute. According to Smith, Big Juke had promised them $100,000 for the job. He said the money was to be split $40,000, each for him and Johnson, and $20,000 for a man named Hernandez Govan, who reportedly acted as the middleman. Smith said he was broke and grieving the death of his son, and that he had only received $800 before getting caught. He also said someone connected to CMG paid $50,000 to cover his lawyer, though he did not name who. Things got even more intense when prosecutors revealed that, on the day of the murder, Johnson's phone made a call to a number linked to Big Juke. Phone records matched up with the timeline of the murder, strengthening the claim that this was a planned conspiracy. And to top it off, prosecutors pointed out that Johnson had ties to CMG, and was even offered a possible music career as part of the deal. As the trial went on, even more shocking details started to come out about Big Juke's possible role in setting up the hit. Prosecutors claimed that Juke had grown more and more angry over Young Dolph's success and, especially over the fact that Dolph refused to ever sign with CMG. On top of that, they said the diss tracks Dolph released made things even worse, especially ones where he mentioned Big Juke by name. One of those songs, Play With Yo, was bold. Dolph flat out called Juke a big expletive and said, "You went from my biggest fan to my biggest hater. Still the same expletive that used to front your big brother. Now I call him your big sister." So the $100,000 hit was not just to remove a rival. It was meant to send a clear message to anyone who dared to disrespect CMG. And then there was the Instagram post. Just hours before Dolph was killed, Yo Gotti posted a cryptic story. "Good morning. Don't value things you don't have over the things you do." It was strange timing, and fans could not help but wonder if it meant something. There was no solid proof linking the post to the murder. But the coincidence kept people talking. Police in Memphis were taking no chances. After Dolph's murder, officers were seen guarding Gotti's restaurant, Prey, which was about 10 miles away from where Dolph was killed. No actual threats had been reported, but tensions were high. Everyone feared this could lead to more violence between CMG and pre-supporters. Authorities even warned people to stay home that night unless it was absolutely necessary. Meanwhile, Yo Gotti remained completely silent. He never made a public statement about Dolph's death or the accusations surrounding his brother. People viewed his silence in different ways. Some said it showed respect, others believed it was just legal caution, and a few thought it was suspicious considering their history. It's important to remember that this was not the first time Gotti's name had come up in connection with Dolph. Back in 2017, there was a shooting in Los Angeles where Gotti was listed as a person of interest, but the LAPD later cleared him completely. Throughout the years of tension and disrecords, there has never been solid proof that Gotti himself was involved in any violence against Dolph. Still, the trial revealed some serious claims about people close to him, especially his brother and others linked to his label. So, is this whole story black and white? Not at all. It is way more complicated than most people think. To understand why Dolph ended up murdered, you have to go back to the very beginning of this long-running feud between him and Yo Gotti. It was a beef that split Memphis down the middle, with fans and local artists picking sides. This did not happen overnight. It all started around 2014 when Young Dolph, a rising star with real street credibility, reportedly turned down a deal to sign with Yo Gotti's CMG label. Instead of joining forces, Dolph made a bold decision. He stayed independent and built his own empire, Paper Route Empire from scratch. In the music world, turning down a big name like Gotti, especially in your own city, can be seen as a major challenge. And when both artists are fighting for the same spotlight, it can spark tension that does not go away easily. Memphis has always had a strong and unique hip-hop culture. The city gave us legendary acts like 3 6 Mafia, 8 Ball and MJG, and more. Recently, artists like Yo Gotti and Young Dolph. But Memphis is not a big city. And when it comes to fame and respect, there is only room for one king. By staying independent, Dolph sent a loud message. "I do not need your help to make it." And a lot of people believe that move offended Gotti deeply. Dolph became the face of independence in a music world where artists often get trapped in bad contracts. He made it clear he wanted to do things his own way, and that decision may have started a chain of events that ended in tragedy. Young Dolph was making serious money without needing a major label, and that alone was shaking up the game. He was proof that an artist could win big without signing away their freedom, and that message was powerful. His success challenged everything that more traditional artists like Yo Gotti stood for. At its core, this was not just a personal feud, it was a clash of two mindsets: independence versus the industry machine. Dolph made his stance loud and clear in February 2016 when he tweeted, "Bro went from being my #1 fan and wanting to sign me to my biggest hater." He never mentioned Gotti by name, but everyone in Memphis knew exactly who he meant. Just a week later, Dolph released his debut album, King of Memphis, a bold statement, especially since Gotti had been calling himself the King of Memphis for years. Too many. This was Dolph saying, "I run this city now." In hip-hop, claiming that kind of title without showing respect to the ones who came before you is often seen as disrespect. For Gotti, who had been grinding in the Memphis scene long before Dolph, it probably felt like a young rapper was trying to snatch the crown without earning it. But Dolph was not just talking. King of Memphis debuted at number 49 on the Billboard charts, proving that he had the fanbase and momentum to back up his words. For a while, the tension stayed behind the scenes, but in early 2017, it all exploded. In January, during a live show in Memphis, Dolph reportedly made some bold remarks about Gotti on stage that took the rivalry from music talk to something more personal. Then, in February 2017, Dolph dropped the diss track Play With Yo, and this time, it was direct. No guessing who it was about. He rapped, "You went from my biggest fan to my biggest hater. Found out he a expletive too. Now I call him your big sister." The cover art even showed missed calls from Yo Gotti's baby mama, making his target crystal clear. The shots were personal, and in Memphis, that kind of disrespect rarely stays just on a song. Gotti fired back, but in a different way. He dropped a track called Don't Beef With Me featuring his CMG artist, but he never mentioned Dolph by name. It was clear he was trying to stay smart about how he responded. Then things got real. Just weeks later, on February 25, 2017, SUV was shot at over 100 times in Charlotte, North Carolina during CIA weekend. Miraculously, Dolph walked away unharmed. His car was bulletproof. Always thinking like a boss, he turned the incident into an album titled Bulletproof, with songs like 100 Shots and In Charlotte, But I'm Bulletproof. Instead of backing down, he used the attack to boost his image even more. That move only added to his legend in the streets. But then things took another dark turn. One of Gotti's artists, Black Youngsta, was charged in connection with the Charlotte shooting. This came after he had posted videos threatening Dolph, even questioning whether he was really from Memphis. He had reportedly even shown up in Dolph's neighborhood, Castalia, with guns, looking for him. Although Youngsta was later released and the charges were dropped. The message was clear: this beef had turned into something far more dangerous than music. Youngsta's role added fuel to the fire. He was loud, aggressive, and seemed to act as an enforcer for CMG, pushing the beef from a one-on-one rivalry to a full-on battle between two teams. It was not just Dolph versus Gotti anymore, it was Pre versus CMG. That raised the stakes even higher. After the Charlotte incident, both sides seemed to lay low for a while, maybe realizing how close things had come to disaster, but peace did not last. On September 26, 2017, Dolph was shot again, this time outside the Loews Hotel in Hollywood. The twist: Yo Gotti happened to be staying at the same hotel. Fans instantly made connections. Police arrested Corey one of Gotti's close associates, and charged him with attempted murder, but he was later released without charges. Gotti was once again named a person of interest, but the LAPD cleared him. Dolph was hit in the arms and buttocks and had to be hospitalized, but once again, he survived. Even while recovering, Dolph kept grinning. He promoted his album Thinking Out Loud from his hospital bed, showing the world that he was not going to be silenced. Too many fans. The fact that Gotti was at the same hotel when the shooting happened was just too much of a coincidence. Even though the police found no proof, people had already made up their minds. The shooting deepened the divide in the Memphis rap scene. Fans were picking sides harder than ever. Some were Team Dolph, others stood with Gotti. But after surviving 2 shootings in 1 year, Dolph was seen as unstoppably a man who refused to be taken out. Later that year, during an interview with The Breakfast Club, Dolph reflected on everything that had happened. Without naming names, he said, "They tried, but they couldn't get it done. You lose." His words carried a quiet confidence, a message that no matter what came his way, he was not backing down. While Dolph was always bold and upfront about the beef, Gotti's approach was more subtle. He rarely said names, stayed calculated, and kept a tighter public image. But by then, it was clear this rivalry had gone way past music. While Dolph was loud and direct with his disses, Yo Gotti often took a quieter, more careful approach. He rarely mentioned Dolph by name, choosing instead to stay diplomatic in public. This gave him room to deny involvement if needed, while still allowing people around him to respond however they wanted. It is a classic move in the music industry: let others handle the messy parts while you keep your image clean. Some people in the industry believed the beef between them may have involved something deeper than music. In a 2017 interview with Bet, Dolph hinted that their issues might be personal. When asked, he said, "It ain't got nothing to do with no music at all," without sharing more. That one sentence added a new layer to the already complex feuds. It might involve something like a woman or other private matter that fans were not aware of. In hip-hop, beefs are rarely just about one thing. They often mix professional rivalry, personal grudges, and street loyalty. If Dolph's words were true, then this conflict was even harder to solve, because personal betrayal leaves scars that business never can. After the 2017 shootings, the drama seemed to die down. Both men turned their focus to their music careers. Dolph kept building his label, Paper Route Empire Pre, and released more successful projects. At the same time, Gotti expanded CMG's roster, adding stars like Moneybagg Yo, 42 Dugg, and ESTG. But according to what witnesses shared in the 2024 trial, the calm was only on the surface. Behind the scenes, the tension never fully went away. It just simmered like a volcano. Quiet for now, but still dangerous. Both men were growing their movements. Dolph's pre-signed artists like Key Glock, who gained serious popularity. Meanwhile, Gotti's CMG turned into one of the most powerful, independent labels in hip-hop, controlling much of the Memphis music scene and beyond. What made this feud especially dangerous was that it went beyond music. This was not just about songs or album sales. It was about respect, power, and reputation. Both camps had ties to the streets, and when music beefs involve real-life street politics, things can quickly turn deadly. In Memphis, respect means everything. Disrespect, that can bring violence. Both Dolph and Gotti came from places where your name matters, and the way you handle yourself defines your credibility. They made music about real life, real experiences, and that came with real expectations. Backing down could be seen as weakness. That is what made things so risky. Even during those quiet years, Dolph's success spoke loudly. In 2020, he dropped Rich Slave, which debuted at number 4 on the Billboard 200. That was his highest charting album yet, and he did it all without a major label. It was more than just a win for Dolph, it was a statement. He proved you could make it on your own terms. For people watching, this was a direct challenge to the system that labels like CMG represented. According to prosecutors at Justin Johnson's 2024 trial, CMG wanted Dolph to sign with them, but he refused. He stayed independent. That rejection, added to the public disses aimed at CMG and especially Big Juke, allegedly pushed tensions to the edge. Prosecutors claimed Big Juke was so angered by Dolph's disrespect that he put a $100,000 hit on his head. To outsiders, that might seem extreme, but in the world of hip-hop, where business, loyalty, and street power are tightly connected, small decisions can lead to big consequences. Dolph's independence was not just a personal choice, it was a threat to CMG's whole model. Every time he succeeded without them, it challenged what CMG stood for. What makes this even more heartbreaking is how long the feud lasted. The last major public incident was in 2017, yet 4 years later, it ended in murder. That shows one thing clearly. In the streets, beefs do not always go away. They can fade from public view but still burn quietly, waiting to explode again. By November 2021, Dolph had become one of the most respected independent artists in the game. He was not just doing numbers, he had built a brand that stood on its own. But according to what came out during the trial, that same success, paired with the long-standing disrespect, was enough for Big Juke to allegedly order the hit. On that tragic day, Dolph, real name Adolph Robert Thornton Jr., was just buying cookies at a local bakery in Memphis. That is when someone drove up and opened fire. His death shook the entire music world. But what made it worse was that this kind of story had happened too many times before. Instead of helping each other rise, two talented artists from the same city got caught in a deadly rivalry. Some fans even wondered if parts of the beef were played up for attention. But once real lives were lost, it became clear this was not for show. When Young Dolph was killed, Memphis lost one of its most real voices. His death left a hole not just in music, but in the community. And sadly, the impact of that feud would continue to affect both sides long after the shots were fired. It is heartbreaking when you realize both Young Dolph and Yo Gotti came from the same kind of backgrounds, similar struggles, similar roots. They could have built something powerful together. But instead, their paths clashed. What began as a rivalry turned into a tragedy, showing once again how rap beefs can spiral from words into real-life violence and even death. The aftermath has been just as painful. After Dolph's murder, the music world was shaken. People started to ask questions not just about who pulled the trigger but about who might have set the wheels in motion. On social platforms like Clubhouse, music figure Wack 100 and others even speculated that Yo Gotti's CMG label could be investigated under RICO laws. That is the same law used in the case against Young Thug's YSL label. Legal experts said that if prosecutors could prove CMG was tied to multiple crimes, it could be considered a criminal organization. That might open the door for conspiracy charges even against people not directly involved in the violence. Despite the serious allegations against his brother Big Juke, Yo Gotti never said a word publicly about the trial or Dolph's death. He stayed quiet and focused on business. In January 2022, just a few months after Dolph's murder, Gotti released his album, CM10, Free Game, which reached number 3 on the Billboard 200. The album made no mention of Dolph or the beef. Maybe a sign that Gotti wanted to move forward and not add fuel to the fire. Some people think Gotti's silence is smart. Speaking on an open murder case could hurt him legally if prosecutors ever did decide to investigate further. It could also damage CMG's reputation and business partnerships. So, staying silent might be both a legal and business decision. Then came another tragedy. In January 2024, Big Juke, Gotti's brother and the man accused of putting the bounty on Dolph, was killed outside a Memphis event center. That loss changed everything again? Right after Juke's murder, security around Yo Gotti and CMG artists was increased. Some artists even canceled shows out of fear that more violence was coming. Police gave very little information about Juke's killing, which only made the rumors grow louder. Some people believed it was linked to Dolph's murder, but anonymous sources inside law enforcement told reporters not to jump to conclusions. Big Juke had business dealings outside of music too, and those could have brought their own risks. If his death was connected to Dolph's, it would be another tragic step in a cycle of revenge we have seen far too often in hip-hop. From the East Coast-West Coast battles in the 90s to modern-day rivalries, the pattern is sadly the same. Public insults lead to threats, threats lead to violence, and violence leads to more loss. It is a heartbreaking loop that keeps going. Both Dolph and Juke are now gone. Their deaths show how dangerous it becomes when music beefs turn into real-life conflicts. These were not just two names in headlines, they were people, with families, friends, and dreams. Dolph left behind a longtime partner and 2 children. His label, Paper Route Empire, lost more than just a boss, they lost a mentor and a guide. Since his death, Key Glock has stepped up to carry on Dolph's legacy. He has said that continuing Dolph's mission is not easy, especially while grieving. Long Live Dolph became more than a saying, it turned into a promise to keep Dolph's vision alive. CMG has kept going after Big Juke's death, though the vibe has clearly changed. The label's artists like Glory Lore, still doing big things, but public appearances have become more careful, especially in Memphis. The fear of violence still lingers. As of May 2025, many questions are still unanswered. Who killed Big Juke? Was it connected to the pain left behind by Dolph's murder? And maybe the biggest question of all, can the hip-hop world finally learn from these tragedies and stop the cycle before it repeats? What is clear is this: Dolph and Gotti's story is a powerful, painful reminder of what happens when rap beef goes too far. These were 2 of Memphis's brightest stars, but instead of collaborating, they ended up locked in a rivalry that left a lasting mark on their city. Now, they are remembered, not for working together, but for a feud that cost lives. And that's a legacy neither of them would have wanted.